From the dawn of a new mutant era in the MCU to a Bollywood action star joining the cast of the legendary game franchise and also the groundbreaking Algeria horror film debuting at Venice. We'll be covering the entire film global spectrum right here today on the Film Mandate. Welcome. And in today's story, Jake Schreier, the director of Thunderbolts, who have been tapped to direct the X-Men franchise, has confirmed that work has begun on the X-Men reboot in the MCU. And secondly, Vidyut Jamwal has joined the cast of the legendary game Street Fighter as Dhalsim. And last but not the least, Yanis Kusum is film Roqia is going to be premiering or debuting this week at the Venice Film Festival. We'll be talking about all these stories and more right here on the Film Mandate. My name is Papa Otu. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Film Mandate, where I bring to you movie news, reviews, and reactions, both from the African front and the international scene. So, welcome once again, and thanks for joining me for this episode. So, we're delving into the very first story. And in recent times, you all know that Marvel has been at the very top when it comes to the best of films. And even though in recent times they've had their own, challenges, but it looks like they've bounced back. And one of the films they really did bounce back with that I covered yesterday, that even fans are claiming on X that it is a Marvel classic being put on the Disney Plus, is Thunderbolts. And the director for Thunderbolts is Jake Schreier, who has been tapped to direct X-Men and bring the same dynamism and flair with what he did with the Thunderbolts onto the X-Men. Well, we've been expecting any news at all from the X-Men front, even though we've been bogged down by the current shoot ongoing for Avengers Doomsday. And finally, he has confirmed in an interview to the Empire magazine that the production has kicked off on the X-Men reboot, not the production on location, but the entire rebooting process of the X-Men has begun. And this we can find in a Men's Journal website covering his response or his thoughts on the X-Men. So X-Men director gives significant updates in the most Marvel way possible. The X-Men director detailed the latest on the upcoming franchise reboot, and this is written by Jeff Smith, updated just 2 days ago. And then your short is Jake Schreier. So Marvel fans can rest easy. Well, at least easier than those who are holding out hope for Mahershala Ali's Blade reboot to happen anytime in the near future. Although there was never much of a concern about the future of the highly anticipated X-Men reboot that President Kevin Feige has hyped up, recent comments from director Jake Schreier brought good news to fans of the beloved franchise. Jake Schreier doesn't give much, but does provide an X-Men reboot update. The director of the 2025 film Thunderbolts has been tapped to direct Marvel's upcoming X-Men reboot. And during a recent interview with Empire, he provided a small but significant update on the state of the new series. So Schreier has always done an excellent job of avoiding crossing the line of giving too much away regarding Marvel films, a quiet approach they've become known for over the years. His recent comments once again avoided giving too much, but he did reveal that work on the X-Men, the new X-Men, is officially underway. So I can't say anything about it, but we've started work on X-Men, and that's obviously very, very exciting, Schreier confirmed. Schreier also spoke about what he's learned from working on an MCU project previously and how that's led to a certain comfort level after overcoming the learning curve that comes with it. There are so many things that I didn't know about before I started Thunderbolts, he says, pointing to the MCU experience he can now draw from. The biggest learning curve for me was the proportion of the action to the more emotional character driven scenes, and how, even though it's more shooting days than I've ever had, they get eaten up quite quickly by the action stuff. By the time we got to the end of it, it felt like, oh, now I feel like we get how to do this a little bit better. Kevin Feige's previous comments hint at direction of new X-Men movie. During an in-depth conversation about the state of the MCU, Feige addressed several topics, specifically touching on the plan for the new X-Men series. While his statements were met with some pushback from fans, it did highlight the fact that they plan to roll out a youth-focused reboot, as the playlist revealed. Jake's going to make a youth-focused reboot, Feige said. That may be reflected in mutant castings, and it will definitely be felt in the tone and perspective of the film. The argument from many fans was that the X-Men series went through its school and university phases during the last stretch of films. Regardless, it does appear that Marvel is set to put a plan into motion that creates a storyline surrounding a young group of actors and actresses that they can build the series around going forward. So yeah, it looks like we have finally some good news on the issue of the X-Men reboot. So it is exciting to have actually Jake Schreier, helm the X-Men. If you have particularly watched the Thunderbolts movie, I think you can testify of the fact that as it stands now, he's the perfect individual or director to helm this project. Having come off directing a film for Netflix, I think Beef, and also done, I think Skeleton Crew, he comes with a lot of experience when it comes to character chemistry and dynamism. But Thunderbolts happens to be his first major film for for a major studio, and it is it is really when you watch the film, you can attest to his sensibilities and how or why he is the perfect person to pull this together. Because going into the new phase, definitely Marvel would want to bring in a different flavor than what others were used to to keep themselves fresh compared to what they've done in the past. So as it stands now, he himself has confirmed that the work has begun on the X-Men franchise, which is something good to hear. And it's with the possibility that perhaps the script, if not fully completed or logged in, they are still perhaps working on it, because as it stands now, I think Marvel has already set some dates, slated in 2028 without attaching specific names or projects to those dates. So there is the very likelihood that after Secret Wars, Avengers Secret Wars wraps up, then X-Men may follow suit within that particular period, possibly in 2028. So that is the news that is coming out now. And X-Men in itself would actually end up being more or less a soft reboot of the entire MCU, where after the Secret Wars, which would merge all timelines, it will kickstart with the X-Men. So I think that is in a way a good thing, because when you watch the Phase 5 in particular, where they were dealing with the multiverse, it was really all over the place. It wasn't really, most of the stories were not connected the way that we had in the previous phases, where you felt that each story actually belonged to each other. Yes, you could tell a snippet of here and there, but the consequences from one story to the other wasn't really felt, particularly in the Eternals. It was after several movies before we found the impact of what the Celestials did in the Eternals movie, seen. Actually, it wasn't even felt. It was actually seen in the movie Captain America, the Captain America starring Anthony Mackie and Harrison Ford. So now it looks like they want to merge all the timelines and begin on a soft reboot freshly with the X-Men now that it has joined the main Marvel company. So it is quite an interesting thing, and I'm excited about the fact that Jake Schreier did say that for him directing the X-Men, just as it is done in most companies, every company have the way they operate, and particularly also in a production house or a major studio like Disney and Marvel, they would have a way, a production way, how they go about producing their movie. So it is great that he's learned more about their production process, and now knowing how Marvel operates, he is now coming in afresh with that mindset to be able to helm the X-Men movie properly. And for those who have watched the X-Men film, you can attest to the fact that definitely he has the chops to bring the X-Men characters together. It is not unlike the other films where you have Iron Man being the titular character and everything. The X-Men actually is a team of people coming together to do exploits, heroic exploits. And I think in that sense, he has the acting chops, particularly if you watch the Thunderbolts, it was team centric rather than a character centric. So it is something that I think he has the leanings to get it done. And I like what he stated that in doing the learning curve, he realized that he, he had to work on two major aspects of the story: the emotionally driven characters, character driven scenes, as compared to the action scenes, which seems evidently that's what X-Men as a story or movie lends itself to. For those who have watched the 20th Century Fox's X-Men films, right into the X-Men Days of Future Past, you have these two main elements playing out throughout the movie. So it will be quite exciting and interesting to see the angle they are going with this. But already we have an idea as to the kind of age groupings that they may be looking at with regards to the X-Men. Just as Kevin Feige had a conclave with a number of journalists, he did mention that this X-Men will be youth focused. So you're looking at a very, I don't know, maybe between the teens to early 20s. I don't know which age group in there they will be looking at, but I think they'll be relatively younger even than the Days of Future Past actors. So it will be quite interesting to see. But they would go back to the Professor Xavier's school and build up from there where they were quite younger. A little bit was teased in, I think, Days of Future Past when you had a flashback of Professor Xavier meeting Mystique for the very first time. So there is a tease of that already in the X-Men universe of the 20th Century Fox franchise. But now that it's within the fold, I'll be interested to see how that plays out, considering all the events that has transpired in the past of the X-Men universe, particularly after the Avengers Secret Wars. But the interesting thing is that with the reboot, keep the when it's rebooted, the question would be: will these X-Men be variants of different universes merged into the 616 timeline, or it will be more like a time travel where after this happens, we go back to the past where these X-Men were younger? Because for those who may be aware, the X-Men of the 20th Century Fox are now have come back to reprise their role in Avengers Doomsday and possibly Avengers Secret Wars. So it means that if you are going to focus on the young Avengers who are the same in their older age as we find them in the X-Men universe, then there is the likelihood for them to retain certain memories of the past. But that we may not know. But I think it is interesting that going forward, is going to be the mutant saga, and I think it will give a different vibe from what we've had of the Avengers. And I don't think that I don't know whether the Avengers will be completely wiped off, but I think they will constitute a different set of heroes as compared to what we have known, or possibly they will be recast and we'll have a new person playing Tony Stark and all the other members, but from a different perspective or different story. So it'll be quite interesting to know how that is going to play out when finally the X-Men takes off. But looking at how it has started this early, it means that we'll be getting to hear more news as to who they are, how it's going to go about, and who they will be casting in regards to the X-Men universe or the X-Men mutant saga that will begin the next phase, possibly I think the phase 7 of the MCU. So it will be quite interesting to know. And I think it being X-Men taking its inspiration from the, just as Stan Lee did say some time back, the X-Men story itself was inspired by the civil rights movement, where he sort of, the main two pillars of the X-Men universe, you're talking about Professor Xavier and I keep forgetting his name, but his friend, why am I missing out the name? But they were inspired by Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. So it will be quite interesting to know whether that would end up becoming also a form of social commentary to the marginalized as it was inspired the comic book era. So it will be quite interesting to know. So let me know what you think, whether Jake Schreier can capture the social commentary and the heart that best defines the X-Men stories whilst launching a completely new team. Leave whatever thoughts that may be, kindly leave them in the comment section below. So moving on from one major franchise on the silver screen, now we are going into the video game franchise. One of the, the video game space have some very passionate fans, and if you've ever played any of these games, you can attest to why people can be as passionate to their games as perhaps they will be to sports. And it's been a long while since we had this legendary game by Capcom titled Street Fighter rebooted for modern audiences. Recently, or about 2-3 years ago, just after the pandemic, we did have one have that of the Mortal Kombat franchise sort of rebooted. And yes, it opened to mixed reviews. But now we have Street Fighter currently shooting, which the shooting began on August 18th. And one interesting aspect is the diversity of characters found, particularly in the Street Fighter, those from Asia, those from America, Europe, and all others. Well, now, an interesting news is that Vidyut Jamwal, if you ever know of this Bollywood action star, have been cast as Dhalsim, a yogi or yoga practitioner in the Capcom Street Fighter video game. And the story here is captured in the Times of India website, and there's the Times Entertainment, and it says that Vidyut Jamwal, cast as Dhalsim, begins filming for Hollywood film Street Fighter, and that is him in your shot. That is him in your shot. So it says that Bollywood star Vidyut Jamwal has started filming in the Hollywood live-action Street Fighter. Known for his martial arts skills and his action roles, Jamwal is a natural fit for the fire-breathing yogi. The movie features a diverse cast and is directed by Kitao Sakurai. Bollywood action star Vidyut Jamwal is making his mark on the international scene. He has started shooting in Australia for his Hollywood debut in the live-action adaptation of Street Fighter, where he will portray the iconic fire-breathing yogi Dhalsim. And says the news of Jamwal being cast as Dhalsim emerged in July, creating a buzz among fans. Dhalsim, a beloved character from the 1991 game Street Fighter II, is known for his stretchy limbs and fire breathing abilities rooted in yoga. Jamwal's extensive Kalarippayattu training, agile martial artist physique, and his acclaimed work in films like Commando and Kuda Hafiz make him an ideal choice for the role. So there you have it. There you have it. And if you take a look at some of the, you know, I'll be honest, I haven't watched Commando and the film that was mentioned in this, but he seems like a very formidable action star who can fit particularly in the role. If you look at the roster of actors that have joined this particular franchise, you'll be amazed. From Cody Rhodes to 50 Cent himself playing Balrog to uh, I mean, some heavyweights of actors with experiences in fighting. So it looks like without you having the experience in fighting, perhaps you may not be the best fit for the Capcom Street Fighter game that is now being rebooted and possibly also adapted from the game and more source materials from the game. So it is quite interesting. But I like the fact that there is diversity when it comes to the casting of the actors who are going to play this role. And I'm glad they've chosen an Indian to play this role proper. And I think that is befitting. And on a bigger scope, it does even help with marketing when it comes to marketing the film to audiences internationally, looking at the fact that most productions now, when released, they look at spreading it far and wide, and the box office returns is not only achieved with regards to your home country, which is America, the North American box office, which of course it does well because that's the largest film market in the world currently in terms of box office numbers. But Indian happens to be the largest when it comes to in terms of the amount of films they're able to churn out in a year. They are number one. So I think it's a smart move to have paired or brought in an actor from that front to be a part of the Street Fighter franchise. And I'm excited about that. But now with the advent of so many other WWE, wrestlers being part of this franchise, I think it looks like they have their market cut out for them. Not only are you having the video game experts or passionate fans of Street Fighter eagerly waiting for a reboot befitting of the viewing in the cinemas, but now you have Bollywood. Also, you have the WrestleMania or the wrestling fraternity with their audience also coming on board. So I think it's a very great strategy that you're looking at. But casting of Jamwal seems perfect because from his very physique and the kind of craft that he's said to be involved in, obviously it is a no-brainer. And I'm sure for him to have even been cast shows that he proved a point. I'm sure they watched a number of his films and performances, and that alone, together perhaps with whatever auditioning he might have done, convinced the producers and the actor that he's the befitting actor for this particular role. So it is quite interesting, and the diverse cast alone is, I must say, it's amazing. You even have Aquaman himself from the DCEU now. What's it called? Now in the DCU, I keep forgetting the name. Also playing a role in this film as as Blanca. So there's a lot of interesting actors. You also have even Cody Rhodes also playing the role of Guile in this film. So it will be quite exciting. It seems that we are entering into a new era where, just as we had in the previous years, about a decade or so ago, we had a proliferation of comic book franchise movies. Now it looks like we are entering into a possible era of video game adaptation movies where it's not just going to be adapted, but they are going to be successful. Currently, the past couple of few video game adaptations have successfully made it on the big box office. And you're talking about Minecraft has done it, Super Mario has done it as well. Jumanji also did well. I don't know whether Jumanji is a video game, I'll be honest, or I think it's a card game, but most video game franchises now are doing well. Even soon enough, there will be the release of Mortal Kombat 2 as well. So the first one opened to mixed reviews. However, it looks like the second one, they are getting it right from the trailers. But, trailers sometimes can be quite deceiving. So until we watch it on the silver screen, we wouldn't know how well it was made or it has been made. So hopefully this will come to add up to what the success story of video game adaptations for us all to be excited, in terms of video game adaptations. Just as some time back, we were so excited about, comic book movies adapted, book movies or comic books adapted into movies. But the interesting thing is that what the role that Jamwal is playing. It is said that Jamwal is a real life martial arts artist, but he's going to play a role of a peaceful yogi who fights to support his family. So that would be quite an interesting character dynamics, how it will be portrayed on the screen. That would be quite an interesting thing to view. Is he going to fight you? I mean, definitely it's going to be in the form of a tournament, but beyond the storyline, if you provoke him, when would he go out? When would he be provoked enough to drop his piece and fight? That would be quite an interesting thing to see play out in the film and how it will be captured. So I think it's good to have this major Indian star, play a key role into this particular production and have a huge moment crossover with his talent and casting based on his real life skills. And, even from his origin, he has all this going, well for him. So let me know your thoughts as to whether Vidyut Jamwal is the best fit for this role, Dhalsim, in the Street Fighter universe, and leave your comments in the comment section below. And now we move from Hollywood, India to Africa. And one of the exciting developments we've had in recent times is how African films are making impacts on the global stage, from the Venice Film Festivals to so many other film festivals. We've seen, from the Locarnos and others, we've seen a number of African films making an impact. And one of such films is an Algerian horror film titled Roqia, which is going to debut at the Venice Film Festival this week. And from there, let's take a quick look at an article published in the Deadline. And this is what it has to say. The Roqia, Algerian horror flick from Yanis Kusim, debuts this week in Venice film. In Venice, yeah. So Algerian filmmaker Yanis Kusim debuts his first feature Roqia, horror based on the bloody history of 1990s Algeria, this week in Venice. And then this is what the film has to say. The film synopsis reads, in 1993, after a car crash leaves Ahmed amnesiac, he returns to his village where nothing feels familiar, not his wife, not his children. His youngest, frightened by Ahmed's bandaged face, fears him deeply. Each night, strange visitors whisper litanies in an unknown tongue. Who are they, and why does his so-called friend, the neighbor, make him feel so uneasy? In the present, an aging Raki battles Alzheimer's as possessed people speak in foreign tongues and violence arises. Ahmed fears regaining memory, while the disciple fears his master's decline may unleash an ancient evil. Kusim directs from a screenplay he wrote. The cast includes Ali Namos, Akram Jejim, and then you have Mustafa Jajam, Hanam Mansour, and Lydia Hani. Pardon me if I didn't get the names right. And then we have Fariz Lajimi. Supernova Films produced the film, which is a France, Algeria, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia co-production. Alpha Violet is handling sales. Kusim studied at La Femis. He has directed several short films, including Kuya, which nabbed awards at Locarno, Amiens, and was part of the official selection at Clermont-Ferrand. He later contributed to the documentary A Summer in Algiers, The Night, which premiered at the Palais de Tokyo, and co-wrote the screenplays of I Still Hide to Smoke by R. Obermeyer as well as El Zahir. The next feature by Adila Bedimerad and Damien Onuri. He's the founder of Plateau 19, a collective of filmmakers advocating for independent cinema in Algeria. So that is it. So yeah, so it is quite exciting to have this story. I mean, as an African, I'm always proud when I hear stories of filmmakers, movies making it, on the world stage, as we have Yannis film making it such big on the world stage. And I must say, you don't often hear a widely groundbreaking, celebrated thriller from Africa, but I'm glad that we have one from Algeria. And looking at the storyline, it looks like it's going to play with two different timelines. So there's going to be the present timeline and also the past, which and the narrative through line will be through the main character who haven't had accident in the past, now has from being amnesiac, now having Alzheimer in the future, and how the spirits or forces that are troubling him affects the past. I don't know whether whatever it is that happens in the past affects the present, which obviously it will, but whatever happens in the present, does it affect what happens in the past? I'm sure they're going to play some psychological thriller thing that may happen. And from the description they've already given, it looks like whatever happened in the past seems very similar to what is happening in the future. With the past, you have his youngest son or daughter being scared of him because of his face being bandaged, and But in the present, you have his disciple being scared that with whatever is happening to his master, it may unleash an ancient evil. So I think there is quite some interesting story and plot line and perhaps some twists there to explore. By it being a horror film, I think it's quite an interesting way to approach it. And not only that, but he's basing it on, or it's being inspired with a real life event. So it's situated within a real life event that happened in Algiers in the 1990s. So if you read about it, you get to know as to how, I think it was called a bloody something, a very tragic event that happened in Algeria in the 1990s. So I like the fact that even though it's fictional, it is being placed within a historical context, which would perhaps make people relate to it even more. And I'm not too sure about it, but I think it could be a social commentary as to perhaps the state of what happened, the things that happened in the past, and perhaps the impact of that in the future of the lives of those who experienced those tragedy, whilst, those who experienced that, tragedy. So I think it's quite an interesting approach that he's going about it, and that is cool. And of late, it looks like that is a pattern that a number of filmmakers are approaching. I think 2 Nigerian films took that approach as well, and that is My Father's Shadow, which also used the historical context to situate his fictional story in, and also I think First Tax 77. I think there's a story that was made around that topic as well, which starred, I think, Ramsey Noah. So that is also quite an interesting approach that filmmakers of today are taking, and I think it's really a good thing to go about it. So I mean, it is good, to have this from Algeria to feature on a prestigious stage like Venice. It's really a big deal. It is really a big deal, not just for Algeria, but for the continent of Africa as a whole. So I'm excited about that, and I think I personally will be looking forward to see how it performs. My hope is that it performs very, very well to open more doors for Yannis and even open greater doors for everyone in Africa as well. So kudos, Yanis, Kusim, wherever you are, kudos to you for achieving these laurels, and we are proud of you. We are really, really proud of you. So, you know, to have horror films being made, it is not, horror films are quite difficult to make. I can assure you. It's not just, it has to also be, you know, psychological, you know, it has to bring in several elements to keep people glued to it. And with times that have passed, there have been very good story elements that are horror. And with how good story horror films have become, if you do not produce a good horror film, there is no way it will end up where it has. So I think I'm very certain that whatever material that was made such a great impact on the jury that it's been selected to debut at the Venice Film Festival. So kudos to them once again, to Yanis once again for a success like this that he has struck. So let me know your thoughts with regards to Roqia, and that is debuting at the Venice Film Festival. And let me know your thoughts, whatever your thoughts may be. Can you leave it in the comment section below? So all too soon, I've come to the end of my three main stories. But one of the things that I'm excited about is how the today's stories are building the pillars of modern cinema. And it looks like Africa, particularly from Africa, we are really making a great impact on the world stage with different genres of films. And that is quite exciting. And now the representation of individuals from diverse casts from different backgrounds in films is becoming a big deal now. And thanks to Street Fighter, we have an Indian, a proper Bollywood Indian action, just an Indian from India starring in this particular production. And it's excitement all around. It's excitement all around. So can you leave your thoughts in the comment section below with regards to all this? However, today being a Friday, you know I'm not going to leave you go without telling you what is possibly showing in the cinemas today. And we start with Ghana. If you are in Ghana, we start with Silverbird. Let's see what they have to show this Friday and over the weekend. And starting with Param Sundari, you have a Hindi film which will be showing today in the cinema, followed up also with Caught Stealing, which will also show today. Other films also showing today or debuting today is the Benedict Cumberbatch and Olivia, is it Olivia Pope? Oh, sorry, yeah, Olivia Pope. But Olivia, her first name is Olivia, also would be will be showing today. It's a comedy drama film, very powerful. If you watch the trailer, it's a very powerful film. Also, you have a biopic titled Legacy Africa. Legacy Africa, very interesting poster over there. Yeah. And also Red Sonja, which debuted from last week, Nobody 2, Revelations, and all these films actually premiered the week before and all. So we'll be looking forward to all these things coming soon. So you can go to the Silverbird wherever you find yourself and go and take a look at any of the films that may interest you. I'll leave the link in the comment section, in the description section below, so that you can take a look at the full list and make your choice as to which film you think you would want to watch in the cinemas. So let's move on from Ghana, what Ghana is showing, to what the worldwide cinemas are going to show, the international cinemas are going to show. So we go to the Rotten Tomatoes website, and on the Rotten Tomatoes website, we have 55, A Little Prayer, American Sweatshop. We have American Warrior. We have Arjun Chakravarti, and Brute 1976. Caught Stealing also is among the list. You also have Griffin in Summer, and you have a re-release of Jaws also this today as well. And then I think we have a musical which will be showing somewhere, Kenya OS, La OG. Yeah, that would also be opening today. So there are a whole host or a list of other films which will be screening today in the cinemas that you can go and take a look at, together with some old ones that will be premiering or will be showing, continuing their screening as well. So yeah, all too soon we come to the end of this episode. I hope you did enjoy yourself with me, and thanks so much for joining me. And as usual, I've started live streaming, so yeah, just keep it in mind from 11:45 p.m. GMT from the Sundays to Thursdays. We do the live stream from 11:45 p.m. GMT into the new day. So that is what it is. So live stream from Sundays to Thursday. You can join me anytime and bring your questions, and I'll read it on this particular platform. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you on Monday with another exciting episode of the Film Mandate. My name is Papa Utu. I'll see you soon.